things.
Okay. So
And from there, it gets pretty complex, where you're mixing entities. Simple would be S Corp or LLC. More complex would be C Corporation.
Okay, and that would be in-country corporation. You're not trying to open one, say, in Cayman Islands or anything like that.
You know, there was a big push to do stuff like that, especially in the late 90s. And the reality is, the way the tax code is written, there are all sorts of creative ways for you to use your money in the way that you want. For example, if you wanted to travel, how many of us want to travel, right? Okay. There's no reason why you can't have a company or a part of your company that writes travel-related articles and sends them off to blogs. You know, you could write 3 paragraphs on Orlando. And, again, you have to consult your attorney or CPA. You could write off this entire trip because you're doing research, because you're a freelance writer. That's a business the last time I looked. It's legitimate, right? I mean, but doesn't it feel kind of like you're doing something wrong, you know? Doesn't it? I mean, most people that I've talked to, they think, oh, I can't do that. That's not really right. But when you start thinking in terms of business and you start putting your activities into business terms, that's when, as a corporation, you have more tax benefits purely from the use of the money, because corporations are taxed after they make the money, whereas on a W-2 or something like that, you're taxed before. And then you got to go get it if they withhold too much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You did a webinar in the middle of the month, in the middle of the day, and I couldn't attend that. Normally those are posted to the website, and that one I couldn't find. Was there a problem with the recording on that, or are you familiar with that one that was done around the middle of the month?
You know who I'm pointing at. No, Sean. Let Sean know.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get that uploaded. But I think if it's not up there, it's my fault. If there's anything wrong with the site, it's my fault. You can just count on that.
Also with T2FW, when I first saw that, I was rather thrilled because I could see in the past how it had worked, and I tried to apply it. And there's a few things that I found. One is that sometimes it doesn't give you the pop-up when it puts when it takes profit. Sometimes it shows it takes profit multiple different times. And the other thing is that I'm not up 24 hours a day, and
right.
Sometimes, you know, that trades 24 hours, and something needs to. I'm sure Cecil will address these issues, and I'm anxious for that. But we need to get some information out on how we can get those type of results or near those results in real world situations.
Well, I can answer that one real easy. You won't. And you know, folks, what it really boils down to is just us. Like, for example, last week when because I'm forward testing that system with real money, and I'm getting ready for this. I've got trades on. I'm trying to short the S&Ps. I'm trying to get short the Dow, and I somewhere remember, did I hear a little bing go off somewhere? Well, then I get to the screen. I'm looking at the position, and instead of taking a 30 pip loss, it was 45 because I got out of the market late. And I'm testing that without using a hard stop because of that. I wanted to test, well, it's called the skid. What's the difference between what the computer says you should get and what you're actually going to get? So Stan and I are addressing some of those. In fact, what we were just conversing about on email was we need to have a way where it just gives you a heads up. Like, you know, the computer will give you some kind of indication that an order is getting ready to happen, or notify you that an order is getting ready to happen, so then you can come in and sit down and actually push the button. We're resisting making this thing totally automated, where it's a robot and it just does the buys and sells for you.
It would also be nice to have a function where we could take off the possible trade entry alerts, because you get so many of those. It would be nice to...
Yeah, it's pretty cluttery.
Yeah. And the last thing is, it'd be nice if we could just have it do the trade for us automatically.
Well, yeah. Talk to Cecil about that. Yes.
The other gentleman addressed part of what I wanted to ask, but on the TF2W, it seemed like that the windows were popping up, but about 20 minutes late, and you know, a lot of times I was losing out even with real money, you know, 20, 25 pips beyond because the window popped up late. Was anybody else having problems with that? And is that a glitch in the system?
That actually is, and for those of you who don't know, the TF2W is pretty close to a black box, and all that means is you're not focusing all the stuff that's going into the signals. It's just designed to give you, this is where our system is saying to buy, here's a good place to sell. And again, you get to hear another disclaimer, it's for educational use only. Part of it is MetaTrader. You know, and this is the angst that we have is we're using somebody else's software platform to make it ubiquitous, to make it easy for everybody to access. And there are just some things we don't have control over. That control is one of them. And it's just the weird way that MetaTrader does things. It won't let us generate those pop-up boxes whenever we want. What I would want it to do is the computer to look at the market, and if it sees that there's an opportunity coming to put a box up or send an email, somehow notify you, there's a potential trade coming up, and here's the likely entry. The real reason why we can't give the price ahead of time is because it's based on the close of the bar. So where one bar closes, the system automatically triggers or records the buy at the open of the next bar. And that's why, you know, your results are going to vary, because there could be some skid in there. Mm-hmm. Even if you were sitting right over the button, you got the buy or sell and you clicked it, there still could be some slippage, whereas the computer just isn't going to recognize that.
All right, thank you. You were mentioning just a little bit earlier that when you've gotten 20 pips positive, basically you're mostly out of the market, but on your autopilot trades, typically you're looking for 35 pips. Why would it be the difference? Because you mean
you're talking about with Hercules?
Yeah. Well, you were just saying earlier when you were talking about Hercules that
yeah,
when you've got 20 pips positive.
Because it is so short term.
Okay.
Because we're literally looking at the strength over maybe a 5 or 10 or 15-minute period. Whereas with a trade that I'm going to set up for an autopilot trade is based on a much larger trend. So it's looking to capture some of that other guy's activity.
All right. And the last question was probably one that everybody else knows, but the red line, was it the 8 period?
It is. We'll get to that.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hercules, I've been with you about 6 weeks, I think. I have downloaded from the website the Hercules, which you were using a few weeks ago on your Visio, which is just the numbers. Mm-hmm. I saw on your recent video that you did use the one with the squiggly lines and et cetera, et cetera. I haven't been able to download that. So when I saw the first one this morning, didn't think it looked quite as useful, except the bars on the bottom line. Now, what exactly are they? Are they purely relative strength tied with volume, or is it just purely relative strength? Because I found that a very interesting feature at the bottom, which didn't seem quite so apparent when we were looking at the more modern version with the lines, with the chart lines.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm used to looking at a histogram. For some reason, it just the differences in the divergences seem to come to light a little bit better. The divergence for those of you who don't know would be where if the market pushed down this low, and then it pushes down to a lower low in price, but then the bars only go down that low, that's a divergence. Because it's telling you that price went lower without the same amount of momentum or the same amount of strength, which means probably it's guys like me pushing the market as far as they can rather than the other guy coming in and pushing the market. Because when the other guy comes in again, the momentum is typically pretty high. I decided to go with the squiggly line version of Hercules for ease of use. That in our alpha testing where we gave both to people, the one with the lines on it was received much better. If we can get the histogram working correctly on MetaTrader, which is doubtful, then I'll feel comfortable releasing that. The other one would be to make it selectable in the Hercules trading program, where you could click a button and get a histogram versus a squiggly line.
Yes. How did you get it then this morning on the first chart? How did you get the histogram on there? Was that MetaTrader?
Yes, that was MetaTrader. That was the first version that Stan Hoffman and I worked on over the period of about 6 months.
Because what brought this home to me was the very fact that the chart you had there where it died off.